What's up, everybody? Spare with a Gun here from Sleepless Nights with another episode on Space Engineers Programming 101. When we left off in the last episode, we were working on our Airlock script, which, unfortunately, I'm kind of thinking won't work the way that I wanted to. It's one of those things that I've discussed this in the comments with a few people that it can be done. The question is, how complicated is it, and how much of it can be done through scripting and how much of it has to be done in-game. So here's the thing. The problem that we're running into is the delay between the doors. The code in the programmable block runs like within a tick of the game. It's just like, and it's done. So it doesn't support delays. Like, you could do delays in, for any of you that remember back in my Feed the Beast days of doing a How to Train Your Turtle series, that the computer craft mods and stuff for, like, Minecraft, you actually could do delays. You could do sleep, you could do date time delays, things like that, and make the program pause for a period of time and then continue. That's what I was trying to do here. Through comments, links, forums, research, etc., etc., I'm beginning to get my head wrapped around what happened. What happened is, however the devs have implemented the programmable block, the in-game scripting, whatever they did to make that work, it somehow ties into the way that the main game is being processed, because if you pause the script that's running, the entire game pauses. And this is not something that I've done through testing. This is the reasons that the developers were saying they didn't allow you to do delays and stuff like that naturally. There are a few workarounds, but they still involve having to have timer blocks and things like that. Like, it's kind of a workaround, kind of not. It's more of a half workaround that you still need an external block to assist with the delay, per se. So what ended up happening, though, is they basically didn't allow that in the game. Like, at the moment, the way that programming is currently implemented, it would freeze the whole entire game to have it delayed. So you're not allowed to delay things, theoretically. So pretty much the only way to delay is using timer blocks, which is arguably what they're for. But I was trying to do everything through code and then maybe just have one timer block that would just cycle through it and keep it running all the time. You know, win some, you lose some. So what we're going to end up doing here is, in our code, we're going to change some of this, mostly in the outer door, inner door functions. Wait, do I have functions for these? No, I didn't write them as functions. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're going to stop these at a certain point, which is get outer door status. If open, close the outer door. Substring, apply action, depressurize. So wait for full pressure, or wait for it to empty. These two sections, what we're going to do is, instead of... Now, this is a little bit more... it's a little more or less like not the actual waiting for something to happen as much as plotting out how much time it takes. Some of the comments and stuff that I've gotten give me a picture that it usually takes 9 to 10 seconds to empty a room. I don't know about pressurized, but so what I'm going to do is basically set it to where when it's depressurizing, you wait like 9-10 seconds, then this door opens, and then you can come in. When this door opens, or I take that back. What we're going to do also, because I couldn't figure out how to do a 3-stage without using 3 timer blocks, which is just too cumbersome for me. I didn't want to do it that way. I wanted a toggle. So basically what we're going to end up doing is, if you're outside, you click the button, then the door open... Wait, no, that won't work, because once you're inside, you have to be able to close the door. Huh. That's an interesting predicament that I hadn't foreseen. Okay. See, this is why I wanted to do it all through code, is because, from what I know, you can't affect the timer block's actions. When you hit setup actions and you queue up things, you can't affect the actions until through the code. You have to do it through like that, where you go in and click setup actions and everything. From what I know, there may be a method to do that, but I don't know it. So what we might have to do is a 3-stage, that instead of just open and close the door, it's going to open, close, you walk in, then there's, then basically you activate the other block, maybe, and it will close, pressurize, and then open again so you can walk through. That's probably what we'll do. And as for, yeah, that would work, is we'll call this block, then call the second block, and vice versa. That when this one's called, it'll call the second one at the end. That would work, I think. Well, no, it would cause a loop. Dang it. Let me see something real quick. Trigger now. Start. Oh, okay, we could do a trigger now. Maybe. Huh. Oh! Oh, I know what we can do. We can turn them on and off through the program. Okay, that's what we'll do. So, walking you through the logic here, and then I'll do some scripting and testing and see if it'll work. Theoretically, what's going to happen is... Let me see what these buttons do again. Outer light... Oh, okay. So, theoretically, what's going to happen is you would click a button from the outside, right? Which would be... Airlock, inner light, loop light we don't need anymore. Oh, and instead of programmable block 1, I did move this, I did set up another block over here just because it was easier than going back and forth. So let's turn that off, turn this one on, and then run. Yeah, there we go. And then it should... Oh, wait. No. I screwed that up. Okay. Because this is set for depressurize, and it's not pressured. Okay. So we want inner door. And then run. Okay. That looks pretty good. So... what we need to do is, from here, if we're at the outer door, we want to turn the light on, run the script, right? And eventually we could handle that with a timer block that's just constantly looking for something too, but that wouldn't be that difficult. So if this is on, it's going to signal, or no, the outer, I'm sorry, the red one, the outer light. That's going to signal we want in. So it's going to open the door, or I mean, no, yeah, that was the problem. So it's going to close this door, set this to depressurize, then it's going to activate the timer block, which is going to have a queue set up for wait like 10 seconds or whatever to empty the room while this is depressurizing. Then it opens the door. Then it will activate this timer. It'll trigger this timer block, right? And when it triggers that timer block, then it will shut this door. Wait. Oh, crap. Alright, I'm going to work this out, because I have an idea. I'm not correctly conveying it, but it's going to be a more complicated loop than I originally anticipated, but if I can figure it out, we can probably make this work. So I will be back in a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I believe we have a winner. So there's a couple things that I had to finagle with and move around. There's also some safety measures that I disengaged because I'm not sure why they were causing a problem, but they were. So, for example, first thing, I took the generator, I moved it over here because it was just basically creating a constant flow of air. It wasn't letting me test the depressurization, can't talk, and stuff like that. So I put a generator next to it to create 25%, so that we could get the little green light so that we knew there was stuff in there. I moved the button panel inside. Now this is a solution that isn't quite as elegant, but it is doable. So what this means is instead of having a button on the actual outside of the door, hitting the button, and then going in and having a third lock in the middle to open the next one, and vice versa, the controls are inside the airlock. Now, you could switch this around, but it would complicate things, and not like it's undoable, it would just make it more complex. For a simple solution like this, it basically means that one door is always open. That's my solution to this, instead of having 3 buttons and just doing like one button panel. It would basically have, well, hold on. Actually, now that we're using timer blocks to do some of this stuff, we might not need button panels at all. We might not. So let me demonstrate first how this works, and then see if we can condense it down and remove the buttons altogether. So first off, we're currently set to an open, so if you were out here mining and you know, we're going to come inside of your station ship. So you can see the room is not pressurized, the outer door is open. The timers, I set them to, it's very simple actually. It became much more simplistic once I took the precautions out of the logic. So basically this is going to wait 10 seconds, close the door, turn off the outer or the inner light so that the program doesn't call it again. So what we can see is, one thing that you'll notice is that the room doesn't have that whooshing air anymore. Like, it does actually depressurize because the tank isn't completely full. So that's one thing I want to bring up, is when we have the oxygen tank, it's at 25.81. Okay? That's important because it's storing the vent's air. Also, I have noticed, I wasn't sure if I was going to have to add some code to switch this to stockpile mode, but you don't. You can, if the vent is set to depressurize, it will push into the tank anyway, even if it's not set to stockpile. So 25.81. Let's set it to inner door, which you can't really see that well, but you can see the green light came on. And then we're going to run the script. So the outer door closes, room pressurizes, and you can see the timer block blinking there. So it's working, and then it opens. Pretty cool. Room's pressurized. Now, we can set the outer door. Now this is important. When we close it, you'll see it actually depressurize. And then the door will open. So that was different than how it was working before, because how it was working before was the tank didn't have any room to put the vent's air into it. One other thing that I wanted to show was when this is full, when this is pressurized, and you go to the oxygen tank, 25.52, not 0.81. So that's important. Now, the one thing with this is because we're using a timer block and not an actual pressurization, or a pressurization toggle, from what let me experiment with this for a second, but from what I can tell, there's no way to actually go by the vent. Like, Oh wait, maybe there is. Depressurize on off. Toggle block. So there's no way to check, basically, for pressure. That's why I set it to 10 seconds. How big the room is, I mean, if they're actually basing this off of real volumetric mechanics, then how big the room is will change how long it takes to pressurize and depressurize the room, because, as you can tell, this only takes up like 0.8 or 0.3%. No. Yes, 0.30, something like that. I mean, that's not accurate, but I'm just guessing it goes from 2581 to 2553 or something, so it's like, you know, 0.32% or something. But if this room were bigger, it would take more air, so the percentage would take longer. Well, not the percentage, but the room would take longer to fill up with air, so it would take longer to pressurize and depressurize, so you'd have to adjust the timer blocks accordingly to how long it takes to fill and empty the room. Now, having said that, this is our new code that I have set up. I took out some of the dummy code, or the redundant code, like buttons and things that I didn't end up using. So we have an if iLight is working, which is inner light. If you turn the inner light on, ensure inner door is closed. So if inner door is open, then we want to close it. If outer door is open, we want to close it. Then get the pressure like we did before. If it doesn't contain a percentage, there's no pressure, so we want to toggle it to pressurize the room. Then we have, this is new, so I did inner T and outer T, which are IMyTimer blocks. And then IMyTimer block, grid terminal system, get block with name, and I named them inner timer, outer timer. So when you get to the end, once you've set it to pressurize, then the inner timer applies the start action, which is going to start its cue, which we have it set to wait 10 seconds, and then do it the rest of the thing. So we're basically running the system through code until we have to wait. Once we have to wait, it switches over to the timer blocks. Now, something very bizarre happened. And I'm actually going to copy this code, and we're going to put this in the first programmable block as a backup, so that I don't have to go back and do things. Now, something happened very, very weird, and we'll test it with, what are we set to? We're set to go to the inner door version. So let's, when I put checks in here to turn blocks on and off or check for it, it broke things, and I don't know what happened. So, for example, we'll check for if iDoor is working as false, which is what the exclamation point does. Then iDoor apply action on off on, which will turn the block on. Okay, so it basically says if the door is off, turn it on. If it's open, close the door. Right? We're going to leave it on because the timer has to do stuff with it. Now, for the outer door, if ODoor is working as false, then ODoor apply action on, off, on. Again, turns it on, checks to make sure it's closed. Now, for this one, we're going to close it. Okay, so at this point, we're going to do the reverse. Apply action on, off. I'm going to do that every freaking time. And off. So that's going to turn the door on if it's off, open it, and then turn it back off again. So this way, it was a fail-safe that I put in so that people couldn't toggle the doors manually. Now we're going to check the inner timer to see if it's working. And if it's not, then apply action on, off, on. So that'll turn the timer block on if it's off and apply the action. Now we're not going to do the outer code because it's not going to be a problem because we're not going to keep it this way. I'm just showing you what ended up happening. So inner timer setup action. So the door's on. We need to close it, and then what we're gonna do is turn the door off again, so that we don't have issues with anybody actually using the door and not the buttons, right? Then we'll turn the inner light off, and now originally I had set it up with an outer button structure in mind, and it was going to run both timer blocks and turn them off. We're not going to have to do that, but still, watch what ends up happening, and it's probably not going to do it for me now. Now it's going to break things. I mean, now it's going to be fine. So we're going to turn the inner light on, which we can see. Now we're going to run the code. Right? Wait, hold on. So the timer's blinking. Okay, when it flashes green is when it does something. What is this? What? Okay, so the inner door didn't open at all at the end. It's off. It says it's open, but it's not. Okay? This block, on the other hand, you can walk right through. Okay? This says it's closed and that it's off, and that the room is not now it's pressurized, right? You walk out, no air. Walk in, no air. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what this is. Like, theoretically, the logic is sound. It shouldn't, but it's like the doors didn't do anything, but they did. But graphically, nothing happens. And you can still walk through it, which is even weirder, because it's not even like a graphical thing where you're, you know, running in place because the door's actually closed. No, no. It's open, but closed. This is closed, but it's open. Like, I don't know what that is. That is so bizarre. And if you turn the block on, then it closes. It's almost like it happens too quick for the animations to keep up. Maybe? I don't know. But it definitely is bizarre, and it kind of, in my opinion, breaks things. Like, there may be a way to change... I don't know. There might be a way to change the timing to where it doesn't trip the thing out, but it seems like no matter what I did, it constantly broke stuff. Like that. Like, it works, theoretically, but it doesn't really work. So let's set this back to... Oops. No. Toggle off. Okay. So that's fixed. Now let's fix our code. Let me just grab kind of the simpler solution, or simplest solution. Grab this. No. Go away. And then we'll just paste that back in. And that's without our safeguards. Now, as I was explaining all this, it got me thinking. If we're using timer blocks in the first place, do we need lights? Is that even a thing that we need? So right at the moment, it was supposed to be basically a time delay, so that if you tried to activate the door, it really wouldn't let you. It would like basically do all this other stuff, and then the door would open. As I'm thinking about it, we might still need the lights. Mostly because... well, hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. We might actually be able to have a run button. And by that I mean you run the thing, it checks the door status, and then does things with the timer blocks accordingly to just open the door. This would save us twofold. I was originally going to have a timer, a third timer, that would constantly check the light status, and then run the programming block accordingly every second. If we convert the code to check the door status and run accordingly, we might just be able to do a one-button airlock. So tell you what, let's take a look at our code again. All we really need to do is check, when the codes run, check the door status like we're doing here. And then flip it accordingly. Theoretically. So we have this backed up, right? In the other programmable block. I didn't cut that. So let's change inner door to if inner door is open. If this is true, we can cut this line and we can just have it, we already know it's open, so close it, get the outer door status, yada 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 yada, run the timer block accordingly, right? Same thing with this. All we really need to change is this line to outer door dot, and then we can remove this. And in theory, oh wait, not is working. We need it to check for open. So theoretically, that should be all we need to do. So let's test our theory here. So, door's open, like an airlock. We walk in, we run the script. Door closes. What is happening here? Wait, whoa, what the? Oh, I'm a dum-dum. I can't believe I didn't see that. I did it backwards. So, we want this to be if the inner door isn't open, we're wanting to opening it. We're wanting to opening it. Just back that up about 2 seconds, rewind, forget I said that, and picture me saying if we want to open the door. That's what we need to be checking for. Ensure the outer door is closed. We technically don't need this. This is more of a fail-safe measure, but if we're already checking to make sure it's closed, then it's already closed, if this is even running in the first place. So let's just go ahead, since this is experimental at this point, we have our backup code on the other one. Let's just go ahead and delete that. So theoretically, if the outer door... Wait a minute, no. Get inner door status. If it's open, close. And run the outer timer. And the outer timer... The outer timer is set to open the outer door. Okay. So let's just check with inner door here. If inner door is not open, then we close the outer door and then open it. If outer door is not open, we close the inner door. Okay, yeah. So that's good. That's how we want it. I had it backwards. So now we should be able to run the script. This door will close. This room pressurizes. It sets the timer off. Waits. Again, you'll have to play around depending on your airlock, how big the airlock is, on how much time you want it to have. For me, for this small of an airlock, I'm going to change the timer to about 5 seconds. Actually, that's generous because it really only takes like 2 for this room to fill up. But we'll test it. Door closes. It's depressurized. Door opens. Room's pressurized. Door opens. So, I am ready to dub this a successful script. We don't even need... It's a one-button press. So if you have mods for the button pedestals or something, you could just put one there. And then it's like, you know, if you're out mining, blah, 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 blah. You know, come inside, seal the room. Door will open. And then you can go about your merry way inside your ship. And then when you come in here, we're all getting ready to leave. seals the room, pulls that out. There you go. Now, again, theoretically, you could actually do all of this with just the 2 timer blocks. But this is a programming series, so. And there are ways to do this without any timer blocks. Unfortunately, it's just not functional in the game because of how the devs have implemented scripting. But theoretically, you could do a while loop, and while this isn't equal to 100%, then you wait, and then once it is, then the door opens. But again, like I said at the beginning, the way they have it implemented is a while loop like that will either freeze the whole game or not run correctly at all because it's tied into how the game actually updates at the moment. So if that changes in the future, and delaying is eventually allowed in future versions of the game, this is totally achievable with a single programmable block and no timers. However, I'm not entirely sure that'll happen because theoretically that would make the timers null and void. They would end up like removing them, I guess, unless people just wanted to use them for non-programming people that didn't know how to use the script block. But now, one thing this would do, if you wanted to do it without a programmable block, just off the top of my head, I'm not actually sure about this, but off the top of my head, I have a feeling it would not be a single button. It might be a multi-button, like turn on timer 1, turn on timer 2, or inner outer timer. Because theoretically, you could have it set to where the first action is close the door. Actually, I don't... If you were to do this without a program, you would need more than one timer, because there has to be something that closes this door and tells it to pressurize, and then waits. So you'd have to have multiple timers for each direction, and you can't change the action. So, theoretically, you would need a programmable block to make it as even this small, which isn't as small as I wanted to make it, but even still. So, let me go over my script real quick and do some checking, and then I'm going to basically do a summary thing on what you would need to set this up. Okay, so I added one other little thing. You could put this wherever you want it. You could do multiples, doesn't really matter. I put a light here that is off if nothing's happening, and when you actually start to transition, then it blinks until the actual transition is like open, so that just for aesthetics. You don't need this. Actually, in the code, it's set up to where it doesn't need this. It's just a little option thing that I thought was kind of cool. Now, there's a couple of things with the light. I have it set to Airlock status light. Set the color to red. Radius and all that I turned the intensity down to 1 just because it's supposed to just blink. It's not supposed to blind you, and the blink interval is set to 1. I did this outside the code because I wasn't planning on changing it. Originally, I thought about maybe having it be red while it's transitioning green when it's good to go and then turning off, but because we're doing everything after the delay through the timer blocks, it made it kind of impossible to rerun the script at the end without affecting anything and then change the color back, kind of thing. So that's one of those things that it was an interesting idea, but with the way we've actually implemented it, it won't really work. The other thing is I'm going to show you here, I've seen a lot of things that you can do with the lights by using the set value command, but I've learned from research anyway that I didn't use it in this one because I realized there was no point in changing the color multiple times. But the S light, which is my interior light, and it goes from Airlock status light. That's how I have it set to pull. You can do .set value, and within here you can specify a string, so say color, and then a comma, and then whatever your color value is going to be, and then a semicolon at the end. However, There's also stuff like set blink interval and things like that. From what I read, the way it's currently set up is the set value only pulls the last thing. So if you have set blink interval, set color, set intensity, it's only going to set the intensity. The color and the blink interval aren't going to be there. I've seen a couple different people try different scripts, and it always seems to end up pulling the last set value. I don't know if that's fixed now or not. If it is, that would be cool. If not, you know, that could have been an old forum, I guess. I wasn't really paying attention to the date on the posts and things like that, but still. That's why I'm only using a single color light, and it's an on-off function, not a, you know, change the blink and all that stuff. I did that one time. So in the setup actions, I just have airlock status toggle block off, and the same on the other timer blocks, so that when the light goes off, the timers are done and everything's complete. Now, that changed the code ever so slightly. So we have an iMyInterior light at S-Light, and then I showed the instantiation here. I did change the names, just for ease of understanding. It's airlock vent, airlock inner and outer door, airlock inner and outer timer, airlock status light. If you have more than one airlock, you could have one block and two timers, or one programmable block, two timers, running this to do each one by setting one. You know, you could change it to something else. Like all of these would be 2, all these would be 3, and then that would be your second, third, etc. airlocks if you wanted multiples set up. That's really all you would have to do, and just copy how this is set up. For the light, I made this optional. So I have, if S-Light is not equal to null, then apply the action to turn it on and off. This keeps it so that if it checks this line and nothing happened because you don't have an airlock status light, you don't want one, whatever, then it will not turn anything on and move on with the code because there is nothing in that variable. So that was a precaution, just set up as an option if you wanted a light, and then you could do tweaks like blink interval and all that kind of stuff to it later, or manually through the settings. As for the setup, like I said, that I was going to do an explanation on the setup. You will need one programmable block, 2 timers, 1 vent, 2 doors. You will also probably need a oxygen tank, if nothing else. I'm assuming you're tying into the oxygen system of your ship or station, so that may or may not be necessary. And if you want one interior light. You can also set that up to do multiple lights. It wouldn't be that hard. You could just copy and paste the code to access more than one light. There's even ways you could do it in a loop. Per this small structure, it's not really something that I was worried about, so I didn't do it. I'll go ahead and show it through the code again, and I'll underline all these in editing. The vent needs to be named airlock vent, the doors need to be named airlock inner and outer door, the timers, airlock inner and outer timer, and if you have a status light, the airlock status light. That should set up your script and everything. You also have to make sure everything is set to you as an owner so it can manipulate things. As for a setup, you'd have the inner door, outer door, vent, oxygen tank, and then the program. All this stuff is really relative to where you want it. The doors could be far away from each other. They could be, you know, the timers and programmable blocks could be sunk into the ground. Like, you could do it wherever. You just need those blocks. Also, you'll need a button panel or some kind of activation device so that you can push a button and toggle it on and off. So yeah, I think that's going to wrap things up for this script. I'm kind of happy with it. It ended up working. So let me know what you guys think. If I don't get any other suggestions, I will probably move back to inventory management as my next script, and sorting and all that kind of stuff. Unless there are other suggestions, things that you'd like to see or learn about, or, you know, something you wanted implemented that you can't figure out how to do. Obviously, you know, that kind of goes with the territory that it needs to be something that's doable, but more than likely, like this shows, there's usually a way to do it. It's just how compact can you make it, and how much of it can be done through just a programmable block, and how much of it needs to use a timer and things like that. But more than likely, there's usually a way to make something happen. Especially in a game like this. I mean, this game has all kinds of potential for doing crazy crap. So, I would like to work on inventory and status type scripts. I know that's been done before, but I'd like to just get my, you know, just get my own hands in on it and try and actually come up with my own solutions for things. I am still rolling around ideas with mathematics on the fuel system as to determine how to figure out what the fuel time that's remaining on your system is. That's proving quite difficult for me. I'm either not grasping something, or it's more complicated than I expected. But I know it can be done because the developers did it. When you get into a cockpit, you know, it tells you what your fuel time is. So I know it can be done. I'm just not sure if I've got the math figured out yet. So anyways, let me know what you guys think about that, and any suggestions you have on future scripts you might want to see, or problems you want to see if we can work them out. All that good stuff. In the meantime, I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, and I will see you all next time. Peace.